pleased for you that the redecorating of the office has been, because it sounded like you guys had a few different things you were considering doing. So it sounds like you've
Yeah,
now come to a decision and you're
you
getting
are
on with it.
incorrect.
Ah!
I was in a bit of analysis paralysis. So I thought just start and it will come to you. So,
Yeah.
because the first bit's stripping, isn't it? It's stripping and sanding
God,
and filling,
so
and
tedious.
I hate that anyway. And I was like, just get on with it, and then you will be forced into a decision. So, and we've
So are
taken out.
you prepping all the rooms?
No, just this room. It's the room you stayed in over Christmas. So, it had those big wardrobes. They've gone. We've removed them.
Whoa.
I know. And it looks amazing. It looks so much bigger, which is very exciting. And then obviously there's like 5 or 6 layers of wallpaper that we need to get off. So we've been doing that. Now we've got tons of holes that need covering, and then we've got bulges that need sanding. And so all this stuff is while I thought we might as well be getting on with this while I'm deciding
Makes sense.
colour. Actually,
Sorry, can you hear Ted shaking his head?
no, not at all.
Excellent. The sound filtering is working well then. He keeps shaking, and then
Is he
his
okay?
whole collar. Yeah, I think he's got an itch. So I'm gonna actually just solve the problem by taking his collar off. He can be naked Ted, and then he can
That's my favourite type of Ted.
shake to his heart's content. Sorry about that.
That's okay, no problem. Jam's here. Jam's sleeping too,
Yay.
so we may be disturbed. We'll see.
Yeah, this is the thing.
Yeah. Are you ready? Do you want to get into it?
I am ready. Got my
Hi,
document.
Cara.
Hi, Vicky. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. I'm intrigued to know whether you got your special Valentine's Day goat's cheese in the end. Did you
You know
go
what? I was such a plonker. So we've just been talking about Reno life. And part of Reno life is you need to time your dog walks as to when a job ends and when a job starts. So
Yeah.
on my dog walk, I was like, right, we need to get filler because we need to fill in all the holes. And there's a little store that's closing down in Colford, and it was the last day it was open. So I was like, I have to go there as well. And I was so hell-bent on getting the filler and the thing with jam that I completely forgot about the deli, which is so sad.
No.
And I also forgot we need to get these little hooks for the kitchen. Forgot them as well. I was just so focused on the filler.
Were you not tempted to use the goat's cheese as a kind of filler? Because it has got a polyfiller.
If I'm buying
And then
that
you could
goat's cheese,
snack.
it is going to be in my tummy. It's going to be in my tummy with some honey and some crackers and some grapes.
If they have any left, you might get it on a discount because it's like Valentine's
Maybe.
heart-shaped. So this could work
Yeah.
out for the best.
And I wanted to compare the grammage as well, because like a heart must be smaller than a circle. That's what I was thinking.
You'd think.
Yeah.
And people would pay more as well because it's cute.
Right. So I was a bit like, I don't know if I want to be conned by this wonderful algorithm, but I do love Angady cheese. It is the best.
So good.
It's amazing.
Oh my God.
I know.
Honey and crackers sounds amazing.
I feel like it would go
we'll
nice
have
with
to try
honey. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, we can't go down that road. I have quite a fun story for us today. I thought,
Good.
yeah, it's fun, it's light, it's amazing.
Bring it on.
I really enjoyed researching it as well yesterday. I got into a little zone over it. So shall we do it? Shall we just
Yes,
have a nice,
absolutely.
lovely story?
Bring it on.
So today we're celebrating the true titan of domestic engineering who impacts your life every single day without you knowing. An absolute pioneer for women in STEM who fought for equalities when rights were stripped. But overarchingly, she is a woman who knew how to get stuff done. While the rest of the world fumbles with their flimsy, two-pronged excuses for electrical connectors, we're honouring the woman who paved the way for the British 3-pin plug, a chunky, fused masterpiece so structurally sound you could stop a tank with it. This is the story of Dame Caroline Haslett. So,
Wow. Okay.
I know. So, as an American, I should have checked this with you before we started recording. What's your just hit me with it. What's your favourite type of plug?
Well, I do think the Brits have got it covered with the 3-pin situation, because we have this little like 2-prong little flat doodah, and it is a little bit flimsy, but the 3-prong plug with an earth, I think, is much, much superior and a bit more sort of robust. The only thing about it is if you go on holiday anywhere else, but this is true whether you're, American or French or whatever you may be, you always have to bring that massive like transformer block to plug stuff into, because you don't have the same standard. So that's annoying. It would be lovely if it was global, but I would nominate the British one for the global setup.
That is the correct answer, Cara. Well done.
I know how to preserve my citizenship. I'm like, I need my passport, mate. I'm not trying to get kicked out.
I was worried there for a second when you were like blaming the other countries, like, oh no, the Brits, we have to have this chunky adapter. I feel like that's the other country's faults, personally. Yeah, that's not ours.
They need to get on board.
Yeah,
get right.
That's great. So this is basically a debate that was on the Ellis James and John Roberts podcast, and it's a great podcast. Their humor is like top notch, and they went on this like rant about plugs, and then they transpired and they led me to this lady who we're going to be doing this podcast on today. And their conclusion was also that the British plug is superior, which is very exciting. So that's what we're going to learn about today. So we've got a YouTube video by the BBC, which is done by Hannah Fry, and we all love Hannah Fry. She's fantastic. A few articles from the IET.org, Women Who Meant Business. That was a really good blog on this lady's life. The Wes.org, which will come to light in a minute. And then there was a very funny Times letter, like article about travel. So they were talking about traveling with the plug. And it was very funny. And I've got quite a big insert from that because it was too good writing to miss. So we're going to dive into that as well. But let's do the basics. Let's just tick off the basics first. So Caroline was born in Worth in Sussex, and this is 1895 we're in. Very, very late Victorian Britain. She was the eldest of 5 children. Her dad was a railway signal fitter, and he was also an activist for the cooperative movement. So just pop a pin in that because we're going to need that later. Her mum was called Caroline, and Caroline herself actually missed quite a lot of school growing up. She had an undisclosed illness. We don't know what it was, but because of that she was deemed, bless her heart, like unremarkable. Like, there was nothing particularly special about her. But hold that thought, because this is also a nice little lesson that doesn't mean you'll come to nothing. So she undertook a business secretarial course, which was in London, and she also joined in the suffragette movement, so which kind of leads nicely from what her dad was doing as well. So there was definitely this instilled value in her. So she managed to get a job at the Cochrane Boiler Company. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with this boiler company, and it was not needed, but because I spent so much time on it, I just want to share with you what I learned. So,
bring it on. Let's have it.
They were integral to British engineering, this design of boiler. And it looked a little bit like the Wallace and Gromit spaceship. So it's, those big cylinder vertical copper boilers that you get like hot water tanks almost with, and it's got like a domed top. That domed top was very significant because it meant that the shape was strong enough not to distort with the heat and the energy within the boiler. And it was like a flagship of British engineering. It was a really big deal. So that meant this company was massive, which meant getting a job there was quite a big deal. So,
okay.
Yeah, thank you for entertaining me there.
Well, I learned something too.
Great.
That's very interesting.
I was like, what a waste of time. So
it's good. It's cool.
She moved to London during this time. So the Cochrane Company had different, I think it was a Scottish company, but they had different offices around. But during that time, she also showed an interest in the practical side of the company's work, so not just the business side. Because of the First World War, there was lots of staffing shortages, which we know from a previous podcast. It's like a nice opportunity to get in. And she was able to persuade the company to train her up, basically, as an engineer. So that's where she kind of got her basic knowledge of all things engineering, and also the principles of engineering that you can apply to other areas, right? So she qualified as an electrical engineer in 1919. And that was the same year that her boss, because she was so interested and had shown such promise in this area, suggested that she apply for the job as a secretary of the newly formed Women's Engineering Society. What is the Women's Engineering Society, you ask? Well, it's still a thing today, which is very exciting. And she was the first secretary of the society. Today, it is a charity and professional network of women engineers whose mission is to support women in engineering to fulfill their potential and basically make the engineering industry inclusive. So, definitely still needed today, 100%. This company is called WES, so Women's Engineering Society, WES, that's what we'll call it. And one of the first campaigns that they were interested in was this thing called the Restoration of Pre-War Practices Act in 1919. Have you heard of that before? No. So that was an act that the government passed basically to get men back into work following the war. So the guys came home.
Oh, I see.
And it was an act to say, it's fine to sack women. Just bin them off. It's fine. We need these guys. They've served our country. They've done this amazing thing. We need to install some normality, basically. Yeah, icky.
Hard. I mean, okay, just to go to bat for a minute though, because you've been called up, you've fought for the country, you come back, and the job that you had relied on to feed your family is no longer there. Like, what now? And I'm not saying that is the right way, but that is a really tough situation. Cool. But yeah, then to go, all right, well, we're back to normal now. And normal is men work, women stay at home and what? Like sweep the stair. No. But yeah, that's really horrible for everyone.
True. I didn't have a better answer, but rightfully so, WES were a bit annoyed about it. And that was one of their main campaigns. This was kind of a theme throughout Caroline's life. I haven't done like a section on it in the pod. I've tried to like sprinkle it over because there's other stuff I want to cover. But she also had joined the Women's Social and Political Union, which was actually run by the Pankhurst sisters. And all her career, an underlying theme is basically fighting for equality. She was often more suffragist than suffragette, which leans into her... Sorry, go on.
I wonder what that means. I don't understand the difference.
So suffragist is a lot more like passive. Let's do it through policy. Let's do it through coming around the table and being diplomatic together. While suffragette is let's burn this mother to the ground, basically. Right? So it's very different vibes wanting the same thing.
Gotta
do. Because Caroline had all these skills, so she had this business and administration skill as well as like practical skills. She was instrumental in building up WES, and it became like a country-wide movement, if you like. That's a bit of a strong word, but like operation. They organized tours, they had conferences, and it just kept building and building and building, right? So she started this in 1919. As part of her job there, she'd also taken on the editing and the setup of a journal called The Woman Engineer. That journal is still published today. Yeah. So everything she's done has lasted so long, which is amazing. And I think she wrote for that for like 20 or 30 years. Like, she was really committed to it, which is very cool. One of the things she managed to do as part of the WES was actually invite a number of women's groups together at Wembley for a conference of women in science, industry and commerce, which again, think at the time, this has never happened before. This is very exciting and very cool. Like, we have these are quite run of the mill now stuff in business, but at that time that was a huge feat to have all those women interested in all those industries in a room at the same time. That's and I think unheard of, right?
For each of them, absolutely. And for each of them, like nowadays you have women in STEM groups on, Reddit or Facebook or whatever it may be. But at that time, it would have been incredibly isolating and probably often challenging to be the woman in an organization. So for them to be able to meet each other and go, okay, it's not just me. You have that issue too. Like, what do you do about it? That would have been so powerful and helpful for those people.
Yeah, and it was really making waves as well. It wasn't just in their own little bubble. So the Duchess of York at the time, this was her first official engagement after marrying um, to be King Edward, so basically the Duchess of York at the time is the Queen Mother, what we know as the Queen Mother, right? So, and there were so many other people, really influential people at that meeting as well, from politicians to suffragettes to, it was a really, really important conference. And it was at a really important time as well. So around the 1920s, we're definitely post World War One. But because of that, there's such a drive, like we were saying earlier, to restore and to make things better. Like there's definitely that vibe in terms of the excitement around science and technology. We're about the time that Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. But because, like I said, we were just on the cusp. So a lot of the science was very research heavy, and it was a lot of industrial kind of vibes in the science world in terms of communications, technologies, medical treatments, and a lot of them were focusing on restoring after the war, whether that be buildings or even such things as like hearing aids and things like that. It was, what can we do to restore? But because everything was quite new, the technologies wasn't necessarily for the masses. It tended to be for the elite, I guess, because that it trickles down, doesn't it? Things like, because of all these advances in technology, electricity comes to the world, which is very exciting. And it was quite new, quite scary for a lot of people. Hannah Fry covers this off very nicely in her video. The 1919 Electricity Supply Act was passed, and the idea of that was to basically set up a national system for electricity supply. So basically, this is the setup of the national grid we're talking about here. So there was a huge push from the government to get this going. This is definitely the direction they wanted to go. There was lots of associations set up, and electricity was rapidly becoming a commodity. Okay, it was really like, this is it, go go go. It's kind of like trying to think of something nowadays, like when the iPhone came out, I guess, and like applications were a thing. Like this was where we need to go. Caroline knew all this because she's been at the forefront. She's just got her education. She's seen there's, she's young, she's interested, she's innovative, she's set up all this stuff, she's in the right rooms of people. And basically she saw this gap, and the gap was, all right, so you're setting up this grid, whatever. The gap is the consumer, like who's going to be using this stuff at the end of that grid. And if the electricity went to people's homes because of the act from Restoring After the War Act, the people who are in the homes are women. So she was like, you need to be able to get the women on board to use this electricity. So that was the gap that she saw. She was like, you can design shiny new appliances all you like, my friend, but if you're not thinking of the woman at the end who's actually going to be using this, you're not going to be able to sell them, basically. So she really understood the power of the consumer, which was very important. So what did she do? She was like, all right, then I'll go and find the Electrical Association for Women. So she was a co-founder of that. Its first president was a lady called Nancy Astor, and there was other co-founders, Laura Annie Wilson, Margaret Partridge, and actually these people became people for life for Caroline. She ended up setting up another company called Electrical Appliances with Margaret later down the line. But let's focus on the EAW, so the Electrical Association for Women for the time being. Their slogan was very cool. So their slogan was emancipation from drudgery. That's what they wanted. That's their goal.
I mean, and what an appealing slogan if you're a woman who's been,
give it to me,
doing everything by hand forever. Yes, please.
Yes, 100%. And it was such an interesting kind of I guess, company to be a part of. So they taught people. So it trained domestic science teachers, women, remember. It put electricity showroom demonstrators, so housewives could actually see what was going on. It taught housewives how to choose, maintain, sell new appliances. It's very kind of like the witch of the day. You know, we have witch good guides and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah, the
that. It feels
consumer.
like that.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the vibe I got from it anyway. Basically, the EAW wanted to encourage women to get on board with this electrical revolution.
Now, were they in and of themselves selling something, or were they just trying to support women to embrace this new wave of technology?
So the company had three main aims. So the first aim was to give women the basic skills to ensure that their houses were safe, because electricity, dangerous. And they wanted people to solve basic problems. There's a really nice quote in red there, which kind of sums up that aim quite nicely.
Says, we want to teach housewives to do the elementary engineering of the house themselves. Fuses, for instance. There's nothing very technical about them, yet most women are afraid to meddle with the electric light and call in an electrician at quite needless expense.
Very cool. The second aim was to encourage women to use electricity to free themselves from household drudgery. So it's just save your time, save your back, save your energy, which I absolutely love. And then the third aim was to advocate for electricity's ability to improve the quality of life. So this included like restraining your eyes from poor lighting, so actually having an overhead light, and aiming for like a properly lit, no smog world. You've got to think London this time, heavy industrial revolution. So by the time Caroline retired from this company, just to show you the stretch it went on, this association, she retired in 1956. By that time, it had 14,000 members and 160 branches across the country.
That is vast. What an accomplishment.
I think they set out, their aims were really clear, and I think they achieved them. You know, they definitely reached loads of women, which is fantastic. It's really interesting because there's this really lovely story about Hazlitt doing this herself, and just to remind you, she's qualified now. She's a qualified electrical engineer, but in 1925 she actually got a small flat in London, which is a big deal anyway for a lady at this time. Big deal. And she was renovating it before moving in. Because she was hip happening, she knew about the grid. She was like, I want to have electricity in my house, basically. And she's like, I'm not going to pay anyone. I'm going to go and do it myself, which is very cool.
Nice.
She asked Margaret, her friend that we mentioned earlier, to help. And Margaret had access to the equipment that you needed to do this. There's a really lovely account of them writing to each other during this project about how it's going, what's going on. It went well, but just like it was so reminiscent of like DIY today. Like, I know me, you, and Paul have spoken about it many a times, and it's just really lovely. These girls were just doing it then and dealing with what we're dealing with today. So there's a lovely quote from there, which I thought would be nice to read.
You will not be surprised to learn that trouble has started at 69 Abbey Road. Mr. Knight told me this morning that they had found a nail through a cable and that there were other technical difficulties. When I pinned him down to definite information, the other technical difficulties seemed to disappear. He talked vaguely about Marylebone not connecting up. However, I'm not in the least disturbed, and I am sure that they will find a very difficult woman to deal with if they attempt any of this Tommy rot.
Isn't it just so today?
Yeah, I love having it.
She's like, this
nothing
guy.
changes.
And then I've been renovating this bedroom, like doing this bedroom. There's just a random cable hanging from our ceiling in this bedroom that we're renovating today. And I was like, what am I going to do about that?
You just look at these things and think, why? Why? You lazy person who did this. Yeah. Why?
And I also found a cigarette butt under the carpet. So someone who was laying our carpet down was having a cheeky cigarette and just dropped their cigarette butt and then put carpet on top of it. And I was like, oh dear.
God,
I know
so
it was a different
lazy.
time. It was a different time, but please
It
pick up
always
your
brings
cigarette.
to mind. Do you know that thing? I think maybe it was you that told me about how in bathrooms in the 1950s there was like a little hole in the back of the medicine cabinet, and it was people, modern people renovating houses were like, "What the hell is this? That's really
Yeah.
spooky." And then if you take down the wall, people were discovering it was there so that men, when they finished shaving, could post their old used razor blades
You
down
are
there.
joking.
No, so
Ew.
you'd open a wall and there'd be all these like,
Oh,
what did they
great.
think was going to happen? That they were just going to
Rusty.
disappear? So yeah, people,
Oh.
yeah, the short-sightedness.
Ah. So we feel you, Caroline. We feel you
Yeah.
massively. It's very cute. The other thing, because these women were educated, they were really concerned about safety. So whether it was an appliance or whether it was actually the wiring in the wall, um, appliances when they first came out weren't particularly safe. So they were not always the best designed. Many There were different types of plugs, which was also annoying. Like some of them had like 2 prongs, some of them had 3 prongs. There was also a time where electrical plugs were made out of wood. That was totally fine.
What?
apparently, apparently that was fine. So there was. um,
They looked beautiful. I mean,
I'm sure they were quite intricate, I guess, because all carpentry was. But why are we popping electricity? But it's easy to know when you know. But it just wasn't consistent and also not particularly safe. There was some legislation in place, but there was lots of questions around it. Like, is this enough? Like, is this enough? There's another quote from one of the letters between Caroline and her friend, which kind of talks about this slightly.
another little bother. Can you ask the Marylebone people to send you the correct form of application for juice with rules on the back? Sorry to trouble you with these items, but as you are in the trade, it is all educational, and I do not want to be up against a set of fancy rules like the Ealing Supply Company put up.
So she's trying to be legit, basically. That's what
Yeah.
she's saying. And, she's like, if we're doing this, we're going to do it properly. We need to know exactly the rules, exactly what we're doing.
Interesting, too, that they're having to ask for these rules. They're not
Yeah,
being
what are the
distributed
rules?
by the electrical companies going, okay, yes, we can hook you up, but here's what you need to do. There's
Yeah.
no oversight. It's just like, oh, yeah, I guess we could tell you what you're supposed to do if you want to know. Like,
And it's not in a world where
come
you can
on.
Google the rules. It's not like a
No.
self-discovery, like they'll be in a library somewhere or something.
There's no like
You go, yeah,
inspection or anything. It's just,
mad.
if you do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't.
Yeah, makes us very lucky to be in the modern world. Caroline Hassett, like I said, her underlying thing was just spreading the word and spreading the word to women. Just another little side note that she's actually a published author as well. She's got so many publications, including the Electrical Handbook for Women and Problems Have No Sex, which I really enjoyed. She was very much up the women, which is amazing. So time is plodding on now. We're kind of in the aftermath of World War II. And again, there's a huge need and want to rebuild Britain better and with better designs. It's a golden opportunity basically to get rid of this dodgy wiring situation we've found ourselves in. And so the government understand, they get on board and they put a really important committee together called the Institution of Electrical Engineers Electrical Installations Committee. Quite wordy,
Okay.
but important.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Basically, it was a committee of experts who then put together within 1 month, which I think is really impressive if we look at all our committees and things today. Within 1 month, they published this paper called Post-War Building Studies, number 11, Electrical Installations. Caroline was the only woman on this committee, which is very cool and very exciting. And she was also the safety expert on this committee as well.
She must have had such a good reputation in the field. She must have worked so hard to establish herself as that expert in the room. At that time, as a woman in particular, they would have been inclined to dismiss her. So it just goes to show how, as you say, how hard she worked, how on it she was with the rules.
Yeah. And she has real world experience as well, because she's like been trying to wire up her flat with her friend. Basically, the document, this study is number 11, is a set of principles for electrical wiring, switches, plugs, and all kind of electrical appliances. It's basically how the modern world should be. That's what they're pitching. So it covers things from cookers, washing machines, doorbells, televisions, central heating. They even spoke about heated food trolleys, so for the upstairs downstairs vibe. And it was all about designing the best home, right, that you can using electricity. Caroline was absolutely instrumental to this. She made sure that women were heard, because she had clocked, as we knew earlier from the consumer piece, that it was women who are going to be important here. The document was guided by the views expressed by women of the country through various organisations. It was such an influential document. And it's really interesting to look back on it now. One of the blogs I read did a really lovely like then and now piece on it, and about how actually most of it was correct, which is really interesting. It's quite a long quote here, but this is just an example of one of the things that the document covered.
Laundering. In small houses, particularly in the north of England and in Scotland, home laundering is customary. On grounds of labour saving, we consider that home laundering equipment will be increasingly required in the post-war period. In flats, individual laundering equipment may not always be regarded as desirable. The effects of steam considerably increase the cost of redecoration, and the drying of washing in flats always presents difficulties.
Isn't that interesting? I've lived in flats where there's a laundrette at the bottom,
Mm.
because there's no room and it's grim in a flat. Isn't that interesting? That's like
Yeah,
today.
you don't. And I hadn't thought about the consequence of having all that steam in a small space. But yeah, keep it all together in an easily ventilated space, and then you solve the problem for the entire building.
And it happened, which is very cool. It's really put into practice, which is very exciting. The other thing that was in this document was something Caroline really pushed for, okay? And it was a safe, universal plug, right? Okay, she was the one who pushed this forward back in the 40s. Because before this idea of having a plug for every single electrical appliance you needed, they tended to need, what if you had an appliance, you had to tend to wire it into the wall.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it wasn't just a plug, you had to get it wired in. The reason, it was wired into the wall is because that's where the fuse was. So she was like, why are we putting the fuse there? We'll get the fuse out, we'll put that in the plug itself. Yeah. And it meant that if anything dodgy failed, then it would be the plug that was damaged, not the wall.
Right, outside of your wall, not in it, smoldering away. Yeah.
Cool, right? There is a huge list of things about how great the 3-prong plug is. Would you like me to run through them?
Bring it on. Yeah, let's hear it.
So the wires inside the plug themselves, so if you take the back of the plug, the wires inside the plug are different lengths from the point they are clamped in place. So that if the cable is pulled hard enough out, so if you pull the cable out the plug, the live wire goes first because it's too short to reach the neutral, and it pulls the plug free. So basically that's safety, saying that we'll get rid of the live first. All the screws and the stuff to open the plug are actually on the outside of the plug, which seems such common sense, but wasn't in the day. And that means that it touches the wall, not the wires. Okay, which is basic. Today we're like, of course, but then hadn't happened before. It also means that if, for whatever reason, the screws were loose of the case, they would fall off. They wouldn't fall in the plug. So they wouldn't touch the live wires in the plug. They would fall out and on the floor. Even the plugs being perpendicular to the wire has a purpose. So it's harder to accidentally pull the plug from the wall because obviously you've got that right angle. And oh God, there's so much. So the built-in cable grips secure the cord in the wire, which stops them coming loose anyway. You'd have to really yank it because the grips are so good that are in the plug. It's very slick against the wall, which is very safe. It doesn't mean that you're going to trip or damage furniture or anything like that. And also looks slick nowadays, which is great. Other features were that the live and the neutral pins are insulated halfway down the plug, which prevents contact with the live wire. Okay, so
Okay.
you don't want those touching. The 3 pins, so you've got the big one at the top and the 2 like horizontally ones. That is to make sure that you never plug it in the wrong way round, because there's only one way to plug it in. Whilst if you've got two prongs, you could 180 it, couldn't you? You could rotate it. The other thing about the top pin, so if you look at a plug on the side, the top pin is actually the earth pin, and that is ever so slightly longer than the other 2. That is specifically designed so that plug goes in the wall first, which means it connects first, which means that all the appliances are properly grounded or earthed before it ever goes live. So you will never get electrocuted. So that just having it a few millimeters longer just stops everyone being electrocuted. The other really cool thing about it, it's so silly, but they're in the socket itself. So she's designed this socket as well as the plug. You've got the 2 holes at the bottom of your socket, the top pin and the 2 little holes. Behind that is a gate, all right? And so the gate in the socket would only ever come down when the top pin goes through. So that means that those 2 little holes in the wall are dead. So if you poked anything in there, a pencil, baby's fingers, they're never going to get anywhere, because there's this little gate that comes up, and the only way the gate goes down is if the earth goes in, which means the socket's in the wall anyway. So it means that there's no way a baby could ever get electrocuted because of that little gate. So those plastic covers that you have that cover the holes in the socket, they're completely redundant. There was no need for them. They were a marketing gimmick to make lots of money. And because Caroline had thought about that already, she'd thought about it in the 40s.
Amazing.
The design of the plug also means it can hold more power than other types of plugs, which means that the electricity in British homes is so good. There's no flickering of lights when anything comes on. You don't have to worry about overloading anything, because the design allows more power to run through, whilst in other homes, European particularly, you really have to think about what's plugged in where at certain times, so things keep running.
Gosh.
I'm not being funny, in the size of a plug, all those safety features in a size of one plug and one socket.
Remarkable testament.
It's insane.
She and her colleagues had such an understanding of mechanical engineering, but also of humans, because doing things like putting the screws on the inside so some muppet couldn't come along and unscrew the plug whilst it's still plugged in, that's not about electrical safety. It's about the fact that as humans, we are idiots and we do dumb things all the time. So she's gone, no, we're going to have to stop them doing do. It is so admirable, that absolute holistic understanding of all the problems that could arise, not just within the thing itself, but within the user of the thing. What an engineer.
So cool.
Yeah.
And she got it through. So this plug became the standard in 1947 under the BS 1363, which is the same year Caroline became a dame as well, because it was so influential. It's often held the best damn plug on the planet, and it is immensely superior than its global counterparts. This is the section from the article I read about travel, which is very funny, and I think it just sums up everything I feel about Caroline, if you want to try that.
Are we not all, each and every Brit, united in this as nothing else? Whenever we travel, we look at pathetic foreign plugs dribbling out of their sockets with a mix of pity, disbelief, and fear. Go west to America, go east to Europe, even Japan, and it is the same. Were the rest of the world's plugs a sexual experience, it would be limp and dangling. But the BS 1363, well, it rams home to the hilt with satisfying solidity. It makes sense that the designer was a woman. Caroline Haslett, I salute you.
It's just so true, isn't it?
I love it. I love that we're managing to be filthy about plugs. I mean,
yeah, man.
Yeah, come on.
One of the other things they said on the podcast, the John Robbins and James podcast as well, that often in European they have like this rim as around the socket hole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which means that if there was any pressure put down on it, it also destroys the socket as well as the plug. Well, it's because ours is slick to the wall. It's just less bulky, which is very good as well. So it's just smart, and I love it. And I love that it's dirty and everything. It's brilliant. Like we said, Caroline was made a dame, and she's got so many other strings to her bow. This is probably the more interesting one, but she did so much throughout her life, and she was appointed to so many different associations to help women in STEM, including the British Electrical Development Association, the British Electrical Authority. She was really interested in lots of women's organisations, town planning authorities, other bodies. She became president of the British Federation of Business and Professional Women, and she also was president of the International Federation. She was there. She was at the helm in all these organisations pushing women forward. It wasn't just engineering either. It was women's rights. So whether that be removal of marriage bars, allowing people to work in certain places, including the diplomatic service. Pay was another big one she was involved in. She was the first woman to chair a government working party, which was the Board of Trade's Hosiery Working Party in 1945. The British Institute of Management, which is huge. That's a huge deal. She was just in everything. She was also on the BBC's Woman's Hour, and happened to be on the episode where Princess Elizabeth announced her engagement to Prince Philip. And so she congratulated the couple on behalf, because she just happened to be on there as an expert. She was just in society as one of these people. She was also involved in the education sector. So she was the governor at the Bedford College for Women, the London School of Economics, King's College. She was just everywhere. It was amazing. And then I found out, of all things, there's a primary school in Milton Keynes named after her. Which you'd think, okay, fine. But I used to go to Zumba at that school on a Tuesday night.
It was all leading to this.
And I was like, oh, this is serendipity. It's meant to be, isn't it? So there you go.
Yeah.
Wanted to get that in there. She's also got a blue plaque commemorating her achievements. And the National Portrait Gallery holds 7 portraits of Hazlitt, which is very cool.
Wow.
So she's an absolute powerhouse, Cara. Like, pun or not, she is absolutely formidable. She became ill in the late 1950s, and on the 4th of January 1957, she died as she lived. She actually left instructions in her will that she wanted to be cremated by electricity.
Oh, mate, don't make it awkward for people.
It's so funny. But I just wanted to end on this quote because it was just... this is a quote from her. So this is her in a speech. This was at an address for the International Federation of Business and Professional Women. This was actually before she designed this plug. So this was in 1937. So this was before her big win.
Assume equality. Don't be apologetic. Men are quick to sense it and to take advantage. Don't try to be both a businesswoman and a housewife. Hire someone to mend your stockings. Men in executive positions have learned to travel comfortable. Learn to do the same. Don't waste your energy on small things. Oh, at that time, that is bracing. Good for her.
So cool. And she's like, you've got better things to do with your energy, babe. Go and change the world. And then she did. It's so good.
Wow. It is, wow, she is incredible. Who knew that this little plug was just the tip of the iceberg? I mean, it's so well designed.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? And why don't we know about her? It's just amazing.
I had no idea. I'm so glad you brought this. This is incredibly inspiring, even now, to see a woman so determined and so sure and so capable. Good for her.
Yeah, she's very funny and cool, and I loved it. So that is the story of Dame Caroline Haslett.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you very much. intriguing stuff.
You're welcome. And yeah, it's the most I've looked at electricity since school. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I was like, live wire, earth wire. Like, you kind of know, don't you?
It set me up because my afternoon today, it's Sunday today, and we are doing DIY, and we're divvying up some of the tasks. Well, you know, we just chip away at things, and so I'm going to be quite assertive about, no, I'm doing that bit. I'm going to be hands-on. What would Caroline do?
What would Caroline do?
She would get in there, getting amongst it.
She would bitch about the electrician behind their back, which
yeah. Oh, I mean, I'd be doing that anyway.
We've all done that.
Who leaves stuff like this? Like, who does this?
No. Yeah, so do it. Go and become electricians. That's what I say. So yeah,
amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Vicky. That was awesome.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of She Changed History. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Find us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you've got any ideas of women you'd like us to cover in a future episode, please comment on the socials or email us at shechangedhistory@gmail.com. Catch you next time.